Perfect. Well, we're gonna get that next patch then, right? Like this is confirmed. Yeah. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Nagura, and I'm here with Senior Game Director Ian Hazzikostas and Associate Design Director Maria Hamilton. Thank you so much for taking the time of answering some questions. And apparently we don't have that much time, so if you don't mind, I'm gonna go straight into it, okay? Sure. Okay. So my first question is gonna be about the new feature Drive. Since we're here in Goodwood at a racetrack, I think it makes sense. So first I wanted to ask, what is it that inspired you to add the feature Drive to the game? And a little bit about like the development process behind it?
I think when we were thinking about Undermined, we knew from the start that we wanted it to feel like a city. We wanted it to feel goblin-y. We wanted it to feel chaotic. And so the idea of driving around a place like that with all sorts of environmental disasters just waiting to happen and explosions and bombs and all those things, we thought, okay, this clearly calls for a different kind of movement. When we built the zone, in fact, we thought about the fact that we wanted this sort of cheesy goblin skybox area with the clouds and all of that. And so flying didn't make a lot of sense, and we just wanted the feel, right, the feel. And so as we sat down to talk about it, we started talking about, well, how would a goblin drive, right? And we knew that would just be like crashing into things all the time, and crazy boosts and insane drifting. And so that was sort of the inspiration, was just thinking about what a mean streets kind of feel would be. And then in terms of development, we relied on our engineers, right? Our engineers did a fantastic job adjusting how movement works in our game, making sure that we were able to do those drifting moves and those boosts, jumps, crazy jumps, and all sorts of things like that. And then over the course of PTR, make improvements as we got feedback from people that hadn't been playing it for the last 4 months, right? Like we were. Who were then having difficulties. So I don't know if you have more you want to add.
No, I think, yeah.
All right, thank you very much. I got to test the feature a little bit on PTR, and it's amazing, so I'm really looking forward to it. So another question about the Drive feature. I wanted to ask if you're thinking, or if there's a possibility to move the Drive feature forward into future patches or even future expansions and turn it into like an evergreen system, if that's like something that you're thinking about.
So I think the specific implementation here really is tailored for Undermine and getting around a place that was built with streets, built with this in mind as part of just the cultural storytelling. Obviously, everything we do, the engineering work that was done to support navigation and locomotion and all these dynamic controls is something that could inform future efforts and ways of getting around and transport down the line. But I think this specific version with a goblin car that you are customizing the characteristics of really is tied to Undermine and is going to remain there.
All right, thank you very much. One more thing I guess I wanted to ask about features like this. I mean, this is not a feature that you're not moving forward or that you specifically made for Undermined, but if you're adding features like this on patches and also on different kinds of expansions, is the fact that you potentially want to carry it forward something that you think about when you're developing these systems, or are you mainly focusing on like the patch itself? So this we want to make for the
We do this a lot, where we will make changes and adjustments and try something. And then we will learn a lot, and we'll get feedback, and then we'll try something else, and then we'll get more feedback. And another example of this is us doing our first descent into Zerlek Cavern, and trying to learn, okay, well, how would we seamlessly make that transition? So we have some engineering work done, and we try it out. We get feedback, we learn, okay, now we're going to use that for the War Within, for the core way. How are we going to use that? Okay, how are we going to transition between these zones with no loads? So it's always building. We always build upon what we've done previously. So even when we're thinking about something specific for this specific content release, we're still in the back of our head thinking, we want this capability, right? This is going to be a thing that we will use in the future. And we're doing a big epic trilogy, so we have thoughts about things that'll happen much later. So having this engineering work is great.
Very cool, thank you. Now I do have some questions about the Raid Renown track in particular. So I think a lot of people are really excited for this because a lot of people wanted to get something more out of raiding and more rewards. So I think the Renown track was a very cool idea and a very cool addition to 11.1. I did want to ask what your main goal is out of the Renown track, and just your visions. Maybe is it also something that you potentially would want to carry forward? Are you just testing it out for 11.1? Some thoughts about it.
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, I think it's certainly themed around the Galagio and the theming of a rewards program. But we wanted to build upon the Nerebar Finery progression system from Nerebar Palace, formalize it a bit more, have a bit more clarity about rewards and elements of convenience that can be unlocked along the way. I think over the course of a multi-week progression through a raid zone, especially as players' gear starts to slow down and plateau because you've gotten a lot of the items out of the raid that you want. There's value in feeling like you have some cool bonuses, unlocks, power to look forward to through that track. One change we did make late in PTR was we pulled the Dinar style token system off the Renown track so that we can bring it back more flexibly down the line. Because I think we don't want to tie that to a specific number of weeks that players have to have progressed through. So we're still figuring out, what sorts of bonuses and what sorts of rewards make sense on this type of track. I think the idea of a meta raid progression is something we do want to keep building on. Now, whether it's going to be this exact style of Renown in future raids, time will tell. We want to see, as Maria mentioned, what player feedback and reception of it is. We're going to learn from it. We're going to iterate as we move forward.
All right, thank you. Well, speaking of the Dinars, you can't quite tell me when it is or how it's going to work, since you pulled it from the Renown track. Is there information that you could maybe share with us on how it's going to work?
I think we'll have a lot more details. There'll be it's going to be in the 11.15 update. Ultimately, the feedback we heard pretty clearly from players was that having it tied to particularly that late point in the Renown track felt frustrating. There were also concerns about how it would work, even though there is catch up in place for the Renown track as a whole. Players coming back later in the season who then felt very far behind having to unlock this didn't feel like the right fit for Renown. So I think we want to just have it be something that when it unlocks for everybody, and we have more control over it as a universal system rather than every player having to progress towards it. We'll have more details with the next update, though.
All right, thank you very much. I did quickly also want to talk a little bit about Mythic Plus. So Mythic Plus did get some huge updates for the new expansion, and then there's also some updates coming in 11.1. I just generally wanted to ask how you think that the Mythic Plus changes turned out, and what do you still want to address in maybe this patch and in future patches?
I think that the changes coming in Season 2 do address all of our most pressing concerns as identified by player feedback. We're of course going to be looking very closely at how this plays out in the weeks ahead, and how people are feeling about it. We'll make further changes as needed. We did change a lot of things in terms of the overall affect structure, the difficulty progression, the rewards tiering coming into War Within. I think as we laid out in our blog post announcing these changes, we definitely ran into some issues with the system feeling approachable, feeling rewarding for each new step that players were taking. We feel like the changes that are coming in Season 2 should offer something for every type of Mythic Plus player. For people who are just trying to get into the system, I think there's a more rewarding, more approachable point of entry than there was before. For players at the high end who are pushing keys, we think that the ability to kind of set a new floor for yourself as you progress through each of the levels will be a big quality of life improvement that lets people focus on pushing forward instead of having to constantly retread the same steps.
All right. I also wanted to ask if since we now got the Raid Renown track, I also wanted to ask if there's a possibility to get something similar for Mythic Plus maybe as well in the future?
That's not something we've discussed, but everything, of course, is possible. I think I'd be most interested in understanding what you would hope to see on a Mythic Plus Renown track if that existed, so we can think through, what the right vehicles are to add those conveniences, upgrades, improvements, whatever they might be. It might be a Renown track. It might just be something that could be a baseline part of the system. But really the question is, what would it offer? And then we'd be happy to discuss.
I have some ideas. We don't have enough time, but I'll talk to you later.
What would you want to see on a Mythic Plus Renown track?
Honestly, I was thinking that because one of the problems that I have with Mythic Plus personally is that to farm items, it's always better to do lower key levels, but I personally like doing the highest key levels, right? And whenever I log on and I don't play that much, I feel like I'm always behind. And at some point, people don't invite me anymore. So the best course of action for me would be lower keys. So I was thinking, like, if there was some sort of renown track that maybe goes across seasons, that I would have an easier time getting my currency if I already have done higher stuff before. Like if I have a higher, right? So then I can maybe do the high keys that I want to do and get my currency and my upgrades a little bit quicker that way, instead of always feeling forced to like the lower key levels.
That makes sense. In general, we always want the right answer to be playing at the difficulty level that's appropriate for you. That's going to be challenging and interesting. If you ever feel like you need to just run low keys just for efficiency, it's not ideal.
Yeah.
I'll take that back to the team. We'll discuss.
Perfect. So it's confirmed again. I'm getting so many changes.
It's confirmed that I will discuss it with the team.
All right, then I do have some more questions. Ian, which cartel would you join if you would have to choose, and why?
Can I see your jacket for a moment? Can I just see the back for a second? Well, clearly the Steam Wheel Cartel. I mean, the Steam Wheel Cartel, everyone knows, has the coolest members, and I would be honored to be part of that club.
Well, okay, I'm gonna let this answer slide. Maria, which cartel would you join?
That's a hard one, actually. I think we're used to venture company being sort of baddies, and I think being part of them gives you an opportunity to help them sort of clean up their act a little bit and be a little bit more responsible socially, which I would be on board for. So maybe I'd join them and try to change them from within. Yeah.
Good answer. Another answer about that. Since you have history in quest design, I was wondering if you would have to create a legendary quest line that actually rewards you with a legendary in the end, which cartel would you want to write that quest line for, and what legendary would it be? Like what item or?
Wow, on the spot. Oh. That's a hard one. I'll stick with Venture, because I think there's a redemption arc there that could be interesting to write. And it could go back to damage they've done in other places, all around Azeroth, really. They've been into all sorts of trouble. And so it could involve something like that and do the redemption arc, and maybe, I'm going to say some sort of maybe a helmet? Some sort of legendary helmet that lets you see more clearly, or I don't know. I'd have to really think about what would be cool for a goblin to see. I don't know. Maybe not a helmet. Maybe some like. Ooh! I know. It's gonna have to be a whirling saw blade. It's got to be a whirling saw blade. It's got to be like a chopper whirling saw that you can maybe dual wield. Maybe it splits and you can dual wield. I think that's a cooler thing. So I'll do that, but with a redemption arc. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we're gonna get that next patch then, right? Like this is confirmed. Yeah. All right. All right. Well, that was all. Thank you so much for answering my questions and taking the time and sitting down with me. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you.
Always nice.
Thank you so much.